Amen.
Judaism definitely believes in an afterlife. This is replete in the Torah Shebaal Peh, in the oral Torah. The Mishnah in Avot says that this world is like a passageway leading into the great hall, into the ulam. Hatken atzmecha beprosdor. Prepare yourself in the corridor in order that you can enter L'Traklan, I think is that right? So you can enter into this great hall. So we believe certainly in the afterlife, and that a person is fully accountable for whatever a person chooses to do in their lifetime, and we own that. Actually, we have psukim, verses themselves that are very interesting. Right? The Torah does not speak about olam haba openly, but it alludes to it in many ways. Let me show you the pasuk that I'm thinking about, and we have this throughout the Navi. Take a look on page 282, 284. Let's see how the Torah discusses death. In this case, the death of Yaakov. Yaakov gathered his sons, the Shvatim, the tribes, and he commands them. This is Perek Memtet, verse Chavtet, chapter 49, verse 29, the very bottom of page 282. Vayitzavotam, and he commanded them, Vayomer alem, and he said to them, speak to his sons, Ani ne'esaf el ami. I will be gathered into my people. Kivru oti el avotai. Turn to page 284. Bury me with my fathers, where? In Marat HaMachpelah. So what is this gathering to my people? Ani ne'esaf el ami. I will be gathered to my people. That's not talking about the burial. The next line is talking about the burial. And if you go down on page 284 further, verse 33, Lamed Gimel, Vayichal Yaakov completed Litzavot, giving these instructions to his children as Banav. Vayesof Raglav, he put his feet together, El Amita, Vayigva, and he died. Vayasef El Amav, and he was gathered to his people. How does it say in English? And was gathered to his people. That's not burial, right? We have a long way till we go until Yaakov is brought to be buried. So what is this Vayesaf El Amav? What is this being gathered to his people? So Rashi explains, back before, the nefashot, the souls, are gathered to their place. That's what happens at death.
But what is this place?
Oh, we'll get to that soon. All right. So,
Right away. Right away.
Our understanding is that there are stages. Hi. Good morning. Good to see you. That there are different stages of it taking leave from this world and going and connecting to the next world. Right? There are stages as it extricates itself from its this world connection going to the next world. So, and Ramban at some point discusses that the Torah doesn't speak explicitly about the world to come. It speaks about the glory and the blessings of this world, right? And there's an expression, the Gemara uses, Eidim b'tzad istan. Oh, my witnesses are over there. Believe me, I've got witnesses. Where are the witnesses? Oh, they're in Honolulu. They're in who knows where. Right? So the Torah doesn't say what's going to be happening over there. The Torah speaks about what's happening in this world. So what is the Jewish view on the afterlife? Right? And actually, now you've been telling me that I should put together a series, like a 2-part series on this to give to the community, to offer to the community. But in a nutshell, the Maharal explains that when we have the Torah speaking, the Gemara says very clearly, what is Olam Haba? The tzaddikim sit in a circle or stand in a circle with God in the middle, right? And they are nehne miziv hashchina, and they get the pleasure of the glow of God's presence. So the Maharal explains that all of the talk about, fires of hell and all these things, it's all a mashal, a parable, to either connecting to God or being disconnected from God. That's what the greatest pleasure, and this the Ramchal speaks about in all of his books, Mesilas Yesharim, Derech Hashem. The greatest pleasure is to connect to our source, to connect to God. The greatest agony is to sense God's presence there, but being distanced, not being able to connect to God. So our belief in an afterlife, right, it's not going to be the 70 or the 72 virgins. You always wonder, what did they do wrong? Right? Right? It's not going to be anything physical. It's going to be this incredibly elevated spiritual state and spiritual connection to God, which we call dveikut b'Hashem. Dveikut, well, in Man Hebrew, devek is glue. Dveikut means clinging, this closeness.
So this Gan Eden, Olam Haba, is this what
Is the venue where one will have this closeness.
is it parallel to the Aki Ashvi, like the most, or
It's in the spiritual realm, right?
Aki Ashvi?
Yeah.
And what about closeness with your relatives?
Okay, so that's the ne'esaf el ami, right? Right? That a person, our understanding is that there is a community there, and that one has connections with those who we have shared our life or our lives with. Okay?
Does that mean that friends could be part of?
It depends, and I think all that depends, is it a spiritual connection that we had with that person, or was it, a more, how deep was our connection with that person? Right, just 1 second, Cheryl. Right, so what breaks down is the amount of godliness and connection to God that a person forged in their lifetime that will determine their connection that will exist afterwards. There's a great parable that someone once shared with me that I've shared many times. And it helped me a lot. Because I had a difficulty, if you do the mitzvot, you'll get rewarded. If you don't do the mitzvot, right? It seemed childish. I had difficulty with it. And someone gave a fantastic parable that personally helped me a lot, and I've shared it many times. And I'll do it in a briefer manner. There are two young guys, they're late 20s, real go-getters, real brilliant guys. They're both in the finance world, both married to really nice wives. They both have two cute little kids. And they're both caught with some insider trading. They're both caught with some serious embezzling of funds, whatever it is. And they're both sentenced to 25 years in prison. These are guys 27, 28 years old. I think 25 years, gosh, when I get out, I'm going to be in my 50s. Could you imagine? Frightening, right? And just the whole thought of going into prison, their whole world went upside down. They were living well, living richly, living comfortably, and now they're going into prison. One of them had the attitude that this is my life now. This is where I'm spending 28 to 53. This is where I'm spending my life. And I've got to, this guy's always been a go-getter. I'm going to make sure that it goes really, really well as it can. And this guy really works hard in prison, does well. He's well respected by the guards, well respected by the other prisoners, and he gets some authoritative positions there. And whenever there's an issue between the inmates and the guards, he's the one who works it out. He has everyone's respect, and because of this, he gets his own cell, no roommate. He gets his own TV in the cell, right? The warden hears about the good work that he's doing. He starts to speak to the warden. There's a congressional committee that's coming to see how the prisons are working. The warden has the congressman or congresspeople meet with this young man, right? And he presents wonderfully, and he's at the top of the prison system. It's as good as it gets for anyone in prison. That's what he has. He has his own climate control in his cell. He's living it up. Now, meanwhile, back at the ranch, his wife's taking care of the two kids. And the kids are getting older. And he'll send a perfunctory birthday card, New Year's card, holiday card, anniversary card. Right? He basically will, send a card just to keep in touch. But this is his life. This is where all of his focus is. The other fellow has a very, very different approach. He says, this is where I am. This is not who or what I am. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a good man. I made mistakes and I got caught and I'm paying the price and I'm willing to pay the price. But this is where I am. This is not who I am. And he does what needs to be done. Doesn't make any problems with anybody over there. But he spends his time writing meaningful letters to his wife. And as the kids are getting older, writing meaningful letters to his children. First in block letter, then they learn how to do script, in script letter. And the kids are getting up, they're in middle school, right? This one has a boyfriend, has a girlfriend, right? And he's giving advice, and he's always in close contact with his wife, and they're together parenting the children as well as they can with him being locked up and she being there, and then they're teenagers, and then they're in college, and all the while he's maintaining meaningful connections, relationships with his wife, with his children, who then are getting married, they have their own kids, he has grandchildren, he starts writing letters to his grandchildren. He's fully in. 25 years pass. each of these guys are released. The first guy is released, and there's a big send-off, a big party of the other inmates and the guards, and the warden comes, and they give him awards as he leaves, on and on. He leaves. He walks out of the prison. Who's there? No one's there. And he tries to get back to his wife, right? He gives her a call. Cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, right? It's sure nice talking to you, Dad. The kids got the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you. The kids are busy. Everyone's busy. That's his world. The other guy gets out of prison. Who's there to greet him? His wife, his children, their spouses, the grandchildren. The first guy has no relationship. The second guy's got a beautiful, rich relationship. It's an adjustment going from prison back out, but a rich relationship. Would we say the first guy is punished? No relationship. The second guy gets a reward. He has relationships. It's not punishment and reward. What is it? Effort. You built a relationship, you got a relationship. You don't build a relationship, you don't have a relationship. No one would say he got rewarded with the relationship, he got punished that he doesn't have a relationship. It's not reward and punishment. If you build a relationship, you've got a relationship. If you don't, you don't. Or we say in Pirkei Avos, Kanei l'cha chaver. You've got to acquire a friendship. This doesn't mean I pay you, be my friend. I don't buy you. But I acquire a friendship. An acquisition means there's give and there's take. We build a relationship. There's give and there's take. That's how a relationship is built. We acquire. Kanei l'cha chaver. That's what it is over here also. It's not, oh, you did mitzvot, you get rewarded. You didn't do mitzvot, you're going to get a patch, you're going to get a hit. No. The mitzvot are means of building a relationship with God. We discussed this, I think it was a Mishlei, I forgot where we said. The idea of every mitzvah is God awareness. That's what every mitzvah is. I keep kosher. What does that mean? I walk into the shop, and that becomes my Garden of Eden. There's the trees that I can eat from, and the trees that I can't. And that gives me this, right, with Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, they need to know they were in God's garden, not in their own place. So, kashrut gives one that God awareness. I'm in God's world. How do I show I'm in someone else's world? By respecting the parameters, the limits that person puts on their world. I always say, I go into your house, right? You invite me for a meal, very nice. I sit down at the table. I don't go to the break front and start opening up drawers and looking inside. Right? I can use the restroom. I don't open up the medicine cabinet and say, oh, what are they taking? Right? That's not my business. I'm in someone else's house. I respect the parameters of someone else's domain. The mitzvot, the positive mitzvot these are means of forging a relationship, of creating a connection to God. The don'ts these are actions or means of disrupting, of severing our connection with God. That's the do's and that's the don'ts. So therefore, if a person creates this relationship and has this connection, if a person lives a godly life involving God in their day-to-day, then they have a relationship. And when they leave this world, they have that olam haba, that world to come connection, relationship. If we've got time for everything else but spirituality, so then we might have reached the apex of prison life, of this world, but we've neglected the family. In the parable, we've neglected our connection with God. So then when we leave this world, it's not that we're punished. We didn't build a relationship. We don't have that relationship. We don't have that closeness. And we know that we are wired to crave connection. Everybody wants to have close connections to others. Because that is the greatest pleasure that we can have, which is connecting ultimately to God. But we see that we are wired for connections. Right? We said before, I've done this before. If you want to know what purpose something serves, what was it made for, see what it can do. Right? Okay, what can this do? Oh, can it hold my water? Oh, not very well. This was not made to hold water. Right? But when it spilled, oh, it mopped it up pretty well. Oh, that's what this does. This is made to hold something. It does a good job. If stuff spills and I go like this with it, it doesn't mop it up very well. See what something does. You have a pen. May I for a moment? Oh, this is good. What's this for? Oh, this is great to drill holes in. No, it didn't work very well. Oh, this writes. This was made to write as a writing implement. You see what something does and you know what it was made for. What do we do? What do human beings do?
We try to do good in this world.
Why do we try to do good in this world? Correct. Why do we try to do good? Some people try to do good, some people don't.
Yeah.
People define good differently. What does everyone seek in life? Purpose. Meaning.
Yeah.
You guys are more religious than I. Pleasure. Pleasure.
Because you're a man.
Women also. We all seek pleasure. Now, why will some people seek a football game, and some people will seek a steak, and other people will seek meaning? Well, it depends what's giving me pleasure. But everything we do is for pleasure. We will be willing to delay pleasure. We'll work hard at school because that will give us pleasure. We'll work hard at a relationship. Right? It might not give me immediate pleasure to run out of my house to go buy something for Natalie that she needs, but it gives me pleasure that I'm building a relationship. So there's the instant pleasure of the jelly beans and getting a stomach ache, and there's the delayed pleasure. But basically, we are pleasure seekers, meaning all those things, because that's what gives us a deeper pleasure. Relationships is what gives us a deeper pleasure. So we are pleasure seekers, and we see that our greatest pleasure comes not from things we do for ourselves, but things that we do with others and for others. Because that gives us the deepest type of pleasure, which is a God-like pleasure, because God only does for others. God has no needs of his own. So God only does for others. And we touch that part of godliness in us when we do for others. We are becoming more godly. And the more godly we become, the closer the relationship that we have in the world to come. Why? Because in a physical world, closeness could be proximity of very different things. Here's a book, here's a cup of water. They're close to one another. But in the spiritual world, where there is no physical proximity, closeness is similarity. So the more similar to God that we can become, the more God-like we become, the closer we are. The less God-like we are, the more distant we are. And the greatest pleasure is that closeness. And the greatest pain will be a recognition of the closeness that that could have been, but that I chose, either through my actions or my inactions, not to forge, not to create. My mother passed away when I was very young. If someone were to tell me, your mother's on the other side of the wall, I would go crazy to break through that wall to get there. That's the closeness that we crave. And that is a small, a drop in the ocean of the closeness that we crave with God. We don't feel it here so much. We struggle with it. But ultimately, that's the greatest closeness and the greatest desire that we have. And we build it here, and that's what we take with us. So it's not, oh, you did a mitzvah, you'll get a candy. You didn't do a mitzvah, right? It's a lot deeper than that. The mitzvah is tzivoy, command, also tzavita, which means company. A mitzvah allows us to accompany God, to build that connection to God. Right? So the mitzvot are means through making our life God-focused, making our life spiritual, making our life godly. The aveirot, the don'ts, are staying away from things which will sever that relationship. Right? To quote the Beatles at the end of the Abbey Road medley, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Right? And that's basically what we're saying. And in the end, the love you take, the connection to God that you have, is equal to the love you make. Right? That relationship that was worked on, that was built on beforehand. So that, I'd say in a nutshell, is, Cheryl, you already handed it before. Sorry, I lost you. I left you in the dust a while ago.
And what about pleasure? Like, suppose if a person has pleasure from smoking or drinking alcohol,
Okay.
or some,
Those are addictions.
Okay.
he knows that this is bad.
So in general, before we get to smoking or drinking, right, I drink a lot. It's my vodka. Yeah. The Gemara says, the Talmud says, that a person will need to give an accounting on all the pleasures of the world, the permitted pleasures of the world, that one did not partake of. In other words, we're supposed to enjoy this incredible world that God has given us and appreciate where it came from. Right? But we are meant to live in this world and appreciate it. We're not meant to get overwhelmed by it and distracted by it. Right? So when it comes to different things, right, if something is harmful to us, so then v'nishmartem ma'od l'nafshotechem, we are charged to take care of ourselves. Life is a gift, and not to do things that's going to endanger, or according to medical understanding, shorten, hamper, harm that life of ours. So things that are harmful to us, right? Drinking, I think it really depends on what one is drinking, even alcoholic beverages. Right? In moderation, is it controlling me? Am I controlling it? Right? Smoking, at this point, it's hard to justify smoking. They used to think it was good for you, doctors recommended the camels more than the Marlboros, right? At least the camel doctors did. The Marlboro doctors recommended the Marlboros over the camels, right? And it was very healthy after a good meal, helps the digestion. That's what, I mean, it's fantastic. On the internet, you can actually hear commercials in the 1940s where doctors are extolling the virtues of a good cigarette after a meal. You know, thankfully, I was never drawn to cigarettes. So for a person who's addicted to the nicotine, it's a serious challenge, right? But the things that are clearly harmful to us, then we need to stay away from. Things that are part of this world, right? We need to be in control, right? In control of ourselves, but we're meant to appreciate God's world. Otherwise, I compare it. I give you a beautiful gift, and it's all wrapped up, right? I'm so happy to give you this gift. I come back 3 months later, and I see that it's still all wrapped up in the garage, right? Right? I gave you a gift. The hope was that you would utilize the gift, that you would benefit from the gift, right? That's the gift that this world is, but it needs to be done judiciously. Yes?
Well, the part about the tzaddikim all around Hashem, who's the tzaddik?
Those who have connected to God in their lifetime.
Because I don't think I think about it tzaddik, I don't think of like a normal human being.
No, a tzaddik is a normal human being. A tzaddik can be a normal human being, right? Actually, there is a beautiful teaching that they sit in a circle, right? Circle. The property of a circle is every point on the circle is equidistant from the middle point, right? And actually, it's called a machol. It's called a dance. So when I'm in a circle and I'm dancing, I'm in my position. Now I'm in your position. Now I'm in your position. And I'm in everyone else's position, right? And there are many ways. To connect to God, right? And there'll be an appreciation that it didn't have to be only my way. That there are different ways of connecting to Hashem. Just one other thing on that point. I was thinking I should do this on Lunch and Learn. There's an amazing Gemara that talks about a person who died and came back to life, right? A near-death experience. We have those, fairly common. We have near-death experiences. And there's a book, Life After Life, by Dr. Moody. Not a Jewish book, and he collected all these different testimonies of people who had these experiences, and he draws that many people don't have experiences or don't recall, and many people do, and they all share many common aspects of their trip to the world beyond, and then their return. And in many cases, it's situations that they were declared dead, and after that point, someone walked in, and that person left before they were resuscitated, and they're able to say exactly what happened, who walked in, what they said, where they stood, and they described how they were out of their body, and then they were drawn back into their body. They felt themselves lifting out of their body, observing all that which was taking place.
It happened to my grandpa, and they actually wrote about him in a book.
Yeah. And that all is perfectly in accordance with the Jewish view, that we are two beings, a physical and a spiritual, and when the physical body is dying and dies, the spiritual body, self, lifts out and is aware of all that's going on, and then if the body dies, then continues on this sojourn into the spiritual realm. There's also a book called Proof of Heaven, an amazing book written by a neuro surgeon who was top of the field and didn't believe in any of this nonsense, and then he himself was in this vegetative state, and all that he experienced then and came back, right? Amazing. I don't want to spoil, but some amazing things, and how he was connecting to different people there that he knew, and there was one person that he felt very close to, was connecting to, but he didn't know that person, and it wasn't until he came to, and he saw some pictures that we realized who that person actually was. I mean, it's just, I think, proof of heaven. Yeah.
Rabbi Alon Anava, who was not religious or any, I mean, he was like the opposite of religious. He was like, he was terrible. And he had that experience, and he just had a choice whether he would come back or
So
not.
often that's what we hear about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he has like a CD about this experience that is absolutely amazing.
And those who do have this experience, when they come back with this
Light.
different,
It's
right?
light.
Yeah, they experience that. But in terms of life, they have a whole different view on life. They're not afraid of death
The light,
anymore,
yeah.
and they have
I know.
a sense of mission,
Yeah.
of purpose.
He had
that-
a mission.
yeah.
He was told
Yeah.
he could come back if he fulfills this mission.
Yeah. So that is the the Jewish Torah view on life and on the afterlife, and it's not, it's really, it's one merge, right? Actually, the Rav Chaim of Volozhin, the Mishnah says, "Da ma lamala mimcha," right? Which simply means know, da, ma, what is above you, right? Realize there's a God above you is a simple understanding. Know that which is above you. But he says, da, know, ma lamala, whatever is above, is mimcha, is from you. Meaning you are created, you are creating whatever, you are creating your eternity. Da ma lamala, know that whatever is above, mimcha, it's from you. You are creating your eternity. And that's how we view life, right? Life is simply an opportunity to create meaning, connection to God, and that is what we become. That becomes our eternity. Okay, that was a nice, short, easy little question you guys asked today. Yes, Leah.
So I take it a little further. You actually talked about it a little bit before.
I'm sorry?
So when Prophet Ezekiel talks about resurrection, basically, of everybody, I'm assuming he's talking about spiritual.
Okay.
That everybody's
Okay.
going to get
Okay.
close to God. Or
Okay, so the ultimate reward, when we speak about Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, we talk about that spiritual world, we're actually speaking about an interim stage. The interim stage before we reach the time of Mashiach, and then ultimately this world, the second blessing of the Amidah, is Mechayeh HaMeitim. Those who have died are going to come back to life. Ultimately, there's going to be a reunion of body and soul. And that makes, well, it almost can't be any other way. Because all of the good spiritual things that you've done, you all came to class this morning. There were many other things that you could have done, including stay in bed, right? I'm sure at some point this morning when you're about to get out of bed, your body said, maybe stay in bed for another hour, right? What will it hurt, right? But it was a combination of body and soul it's that holy partnership of body and soul which said, no, I'm getting out of bed. I'm going to go do this chesed, this kindness. I'm going to go to this class. I'm going to go to work and provide for my family. I'm going to call this person. All these things always has to be a combination of body and soul. So therefore, it wouldn't make any sense that the body just gets discarded and the soul has this spiritual paradise. So the body, our understanding is the body decomposes in the ground in order to be rebuilt in a spiritual way. Keep in mind that Gan Eden, where Adam and Eve were, they were in the Garden of Eden. Where was that?
Galilee, some people say.
I'm sorry? The Galilee? Right? It was in this world. It was a place in this world. Shangri-La. Right? It was a place in this world. It doesn't exist now in that state. It's become darkened. It's become heavied, so to speak, no such word, but it's become darkened, let's say. But ultimately, this world will be rebuilt back in a Gan Eden, in a Garden of Eden type of state. And we will, as we are today, the way that the Kabbalists put it, the same relationship that we have our body to our soul today, our body will be like our soul is today. Our body then will be like our soul today, and our soul will be, right, who knows what. Right? It will be this very spiritual existence. And that is the ultimate time of the reward. It'll be in the Gan Eden, where there'll be this reunion of the partners that made it all happen. That is the Tchiyat HaMeitim that is alluded to in the Torah in a number of places.
So they were not supposed to die, Adam and Eve, just like if the
Adam and Eve initially, right, had they not, correct.
Then the world would be different. So that actually there wouldn't be life after life. Yes, it would be just eternal life.
It would just be life. Right. In other words, there's a very interesting insight.
In relation to God and
we are all sparks of the souls of Adam and Eve. And we're all trying to put it all together and accomplish what they were meant to accomplish. But had they done what they were supposed to do, mankind would have gone right into its Shabbat. Right? According to those that say that the Eitz Hadat, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that they were not allowed to eat, was the grapevine, then they would have had that Friday night for Kiddush, and the world would have reached its purpose. And we all our souls are sparks, fragments of those greater souls, and we all would have experienced it through that. And instead, now we all pick up the pieces in our life, trying to make our contribution.
That actually what is supposed to be when Messiah comes, the world will become like
Gan Eden.
Like Garden of Eden.
Like the Garden of Eden. Yeah, the world itself will be rebuilt in that Garden of Eden mode. Right? With that, there's a very interesting explanation that, again, Chaim of Volozhin gives. After they sinned, they were banished from the Garden of Eden. Why? Lest they take from the tree of life, the Eitz HaChaim. Right? Because at that point, that would have been a calamity. Why? Because once they had partaken of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they had become changed. And they were no longer in a state which could have this dveikut, this connection to God, which they could have had before that sin. So if they eat in the Eitz HaChaim, that would have forever sentenced them to being in a state of an inability to connect to God. At that point, what we need, what mankind, what they needed and what we need, is at a certain point, death, where the body decomposes and then can be, so to speak, rebuilt in a manner where we can have that eternal connection with God. And when we discussed earlier with the soul, that's an in-between state where the soul gets stronger and stronger and will be able to re-enter the body in that time and bring it up to the highest level of purity, of holiness. So there's actually Olam HaNishamot, which is translated as the world of the soul world, and then there is